Power on is pretty simple. It has a standby mode, so it'll stay in standby for up from 0 to about 2.5 days. I set it for 2.5 days, and even in the Miata it seems to not drain the battery too much. But once it's in standby, it starts up right away. I wanted to give a little information on what this device is. It's a PX5 processor, which is an 8-core processor running Android 10. There's the 8-core ARM, of course. 4 gigs of RAM and 64 gigs of flash. I had a smaller unit in here, and it was a 1 gig of RAM and 16 flash, and it was noticeably slower. I think that makes a huge difference in the performance of this thing. So I recommend the 464. I haven't tried a 2 gig and a 32 gig memory, but it's probably better. I'm sure it's better than the 116, but this guy is extremely fast. I'll talk through some of the features of this unit, some of the external control features. This does have Bluetooth, and you can use it obviously to do hands-free calling. So there's a mic built into this unit, and in a small car, and that location is good. In a larger car, you're probably a little further away from the mic, and you probably want to move it to an A-pillar or something. So there's an external connector at the back of the unit where you can plug in a mic and run that, through the A-pillar or something, or get someplace close to you so you can be heard more clearly. It has 3 USB plugs at the back of the system, for 2 of them for external expansion. One of them is specifically designed for the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay port. Obviously, you have to run cables somewhere where you can plug the phone in, or those external peripherals if you don't want it permanently plugged into the back of this guy. It also includes a Wi-Fi antenna and a GPS antenna, so there's GPS built into this thing. Here, I think you'll be able to see, there's the GPS antenna, so it's telling me what the signal strength is, and that I plugged in, or it's got double-sided tape on it, and I just connected it underneath, or tagged it underneath the dashboard, so it's getting somewhat of a GPS signal. I usually use my phone for GPS, but you can use it here. If you want to, you can use your phone as a tethering source, and then you can use Google Maps. So this does have Google Maps built on. And so you can use internal Google Maps for your GPS. You can use offline maps. You can download an Android app that does offline maps, and then you don't have to be online, that kind of stuff. This will also read an OBD2 reader, so you can plug in a Bluetooth dongle that plugs into the car's computer and sends the data to this app, so you can get a little dashboard of whatever the OBD2 outputs. It does have hookups for front and rear camera, so you can actually do, this car doesn't have it hooked up, but you can do camera recording while you're driving if you're interested in that feature. There's inputs for SD card in here. So I have a little SD card in there with all the music on it, and that's I believe what I have is a 128 gig SD card in there, which holds a lot of music. And you can do an SD card for maps as well, right next to that. So that's behind that little door. And then behind this door, there is a USB port. One of the other nice things about this unit is it's got built-in Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. What I do is the connection for the phone connection is a USB plug that sits in the back of the unit. So what I can do is plug that into the back of the unit, run the USB cable underneath the center console here, and it comes out in a couple little spots underneath the releases for the trunk and the gas cap. So if I just take my Android phone, take my USB-C cable, plug that guy in, phone gets recognized, and now I've got Android Auto. Let's walk real briefly through all the apps that are built in. This is obviously an Android unit, so you can download other apps if you want to. But what's built in? A navigation system, so that again it's their version of Google Maps. Bluetooth, so you can make phone calls from your phone hands-free. All the Android store stuff. It'll play videos out of the DVD player, or you can. It does have that 64 gigabyte internal memory, so you can download movies onto the internal hard drive and play them. A number of adjustment features for audio, so it's got an internal equalizer. There's always this information section. This is kind of what's going on at any given time, because then you can always see what your buttons are and see what's going on. For instance, if I want to listen to my music, which it's playing right now, I can listen to music, but I can also go back here and I get it on this little screen, and it's not playing, it is playing, and there you can pause it. Same thing with the radio. So there's the radio, and it's still showing over here, so I could potentially do changes to my settings or whatever else while it's still playing and while I'm still seeing what's going on. It's a regular Android head unit, so it's got this front screen, multiple pages for the screen itself, and then all of the apps. You can whip through all the apps, and it's got Google Play Store, so you can always go back and pick up more apps if you want to. I like the side buttons. So these are real buttons, which is really nice. It's got the back button, home button, power. This does play DVDs, so you can watch movies or play MP3s. You can fit a ton of MP3s on a DVD disc, so you could do that. It's got a quick button to nav and a quick button to change the station on the radio. So this is the band, so it'll go from through the FMs and through the AMs. The standard tools, the tools that come with it, are pretty cool. Actually, they're good enough function that you can just use these and actually not download anything new from Android if you don't want to. This is the music player. It'll play music from however you get it into the system. Let me highlight how you control how long the thing stays awake before it totally powers down, which will save a lot of time when you first get into the car. If it's got a power up, it loads Android, it loads your memory card if you have it, and it takes a while to get that started. So it's really nice if you can go a day or maybe even like 16 hours without having to go through that process. So if it's a daily driver car, if you set it at 16 hours, most likely you'll never have to go through that entire startup sequence, which is just avoid some annoyance. So basically the way to do that is you go into the settings for this car. This is the code to get in, and then in ARM setting, the power off sleep delay, it'll be something like this. It'll be something like sleep or standby or power off, and you see here I have it at 3600. That's like 2.5 days. So I can set it for 1800, which is about a day. These are all minutes, by the way. I can set it for 10 minutes, but whatever you set it to, that's how long it'll wait before it actually shuts itself completely off. And the idea here is that it's still draining some battery power while it's in sleep mode or standby mode, but it does save you in that amount of time before you have to go through that startup sequence. That startup sequence on the unit I had that was 1 gig memory was like 25 seconds, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're just getting in the car, you crank it and you put it in reverse. Say you have a backup camera. I don't have it on the Miata, but you can hook up a backup camera to this. You'd have to wait 30 seconds before you go in reverse and get that backup camera. Actually, once it's run through that startup mode, then it has to load some other things, and it takes another little while. So you're talking about like almost a minute before you put it in reverse. You see the camera or your music starts playing and that kind of stuff. It can be kind of annoying. So it's nice if you don't have to do that every time. So that's what that control does. The other thing that I'm happy with is the overall look of the unit is as in line with the nature of the Miata's simplicity as you could expect. A touchscreen isn't obviously period correct, but it fits in, I think, with the looks of the car. These guys are not exactly doubled in, so they're a little bit smaller than a standard doubled in, so you do need to take up a little bit of space. This guy is, what I did is I cut a piece of wood and wrapped it in leather. So this is just a little piece of leather down below.